winner last night, Ender, will go to the arena battles, and then from there, the crown duels.
That's right.
And the winner will win $15,000 out of a $100,000 prize pool and get a chance to go to the Supercell headquarters.
That's right. That's what all these guys here are playing for. Already over 40,000 of you guys at home have signed up for these tournaments, and we are now again to our second day's top 8 for this Coronation. Before we get into that, let's talk about the prizes that they will be playing for. First place today is playing for $2,000. Second place, $500. Third and fourth place taking home $300 each. And finally, fifth or eighth, all taking home a Benjamin on their way home. And again, first place gets that chance to move on to those crown duels and, like you said, Supercell HQ, which would be super amazing and fun. Before we get into today's top 8, a quick looking at our format that we're running here at the Clash Royale North American Opens. We run the standard tournament cap with the dual deck submission. Players will submit 2 of their decks to us, both being unique decks. And by unique, we just mean at least 4 cards different. To move on, it's super simple. You just got to beat your opponent with both of your decks before they beat you with theirs, and boom, you're one step closer to the top. Really easy.
Just do it.
Just like we saw yesterday. Anyway, you guys have been killing it. Let's take a look at today's top 8. Up first, we have Darth Jar Jar versus Trainer Rubens.
And then we have Lozano versus Erick.
Third, Heels versus Clyde.
And finally, Sui Generis versus Goose 13.
Some fantastic names, and again, just
of all of them, right? And so I'm really interested to see what these guys bring to the table in terms of decks and play styles as well.
Let's go. Oh, angry.
Another story is that Erick is a member of the top tournament guild Takeover. Yes, and yesterday's event we had 3 members of Reddit Alpha in the top 8. Today we have 3 members of Takeover in the top 8.
That's right.
See if he can make his clan proud as the first Takeover member to be fighting today.
Lozano identifies an opportunity to try to go for a hog counterattack while 2 big bodies make their way across the right side. Mini P.E.K.K.A. is a very, very key card at stopping all of this damage coming down onto Lozano's tower, but still the Giant got a lot of swings. Relatively even trade. When you consider 4 elixir for the Hog Rider and 5 elixir for the Giant, take a look at the damage it's done to the tower, and it's about
I think Lozano came out ahead there. I mean, that was a lone Hog Rider that did more damage than a giant bowler Mega Minion push, which is a testament to Lozano's defense. What we're looking for here is when, kind of like the Expo, Hog Rider's a lot like Expo in the sense that once Erick commits a lot of elixir to the board, that's the best time to throw down that Hog Rider. And there it is. 10 elixir coming down the right lane. Great time to send the Hog Rider down the left.
That's a big log, and he's going to combo that with the Ice Spirit to stop the Hog Rider from getting too many swings off. Meanwhile, Lozano has to make sure he defends that right side tower properly. The bowler is actually going to cleave the tower. That rock is doing so much damage. Oh, it actually misses the second swing, but now there's not much elixir left on the board. The tower takes down the Mega Minion of Erick, and Lozano defends again, still maintaining about the same health differential.
A key thing on those defenses that Lozano's doing, bowler rolls a rock. The rock goes through every single unit that it hits, but it only shoots in a single direction. He's playing Ice Golem right by the bowler to the side to force the bowler to turn away from the tower and roll the rock at angles.
That was brutal. The bowler is actually pretty good at stopping the Hog Rider from getting a lot of damage, but because of the angle it came at, the Hog Rider still got 3 swings, and there's a big lightning. Giant Lightning is one of the decks we thought we would see a lot in the last Coronation, and now we see that being played in Erick's hands. But the question is, this Hog Rider deck is continually putting pressure on Erick, and can he keep up? There's 38 seconds left for Erick to make that cross kill on the right side tower. I think if Erick can do it, he might be in a very good spot, but Lozano can commit all elixir to defense at this point. Oh, and that's actually pretty...
There's no way for Lozano to defend that tower because a log from Erick is going to come down and knock it down in the last few seconds of the game. So it's really on Lozano to start putting up aggressive attacks now, force the opponent to spend a lot of elixir defending, and even if he takes the tower, you'll have a lead going into overtime.
As a fairly avid Hog Rider player, I do not like the way this game is looking right now, Rumham. I think tower down is tough for Hog Riders.
You're right. So once a single crown tower goes down, the king tower activates. The king tower will start shooting as well. Hog Riders really thrive when only one tower shoots them at a time, but they're not very good in situations where both towers are attacking.
I mean, take a look at that. The Hog Rider was distracted by 1 elixir, the Ice Spirit, and it got a swing, maybe 0 swings. I couldn't really tell, but negligible damage for 1 elixir trade. absolutely terrifying to have to play a Hog Rider into 2 towers. I really think Lozano is going to need to look for a big way to invest Elixir behind the King Tower and then leverage that into a bigger push than what he's been doing all game long.
I could also see the idea of maybe playing a Hog Rider behind your King Tower, playing a bunch of cheap cycle cards, and then playing a second Hog Rider when it actually reaches the river.
There needs to be something that happens in terms of Lozano investing more Elixir in his pushes, because those lone Hog Riders in the middle of the map are not going to cut it. A lot of damage committed to defense here.
You see the angry emotes. There's definitely some strong emotions being evoked on Lozano's side. I think he can feel this game slipping away from him. We have 2 more minutes of overtime, but with the double Elixir and the Hogs not doing so well, eventually those giant bowlers are just going to reach.
The Hog Rider actually gets 1 swing, but that's 1 swing out of how many Hog Riders he deployed? Maybe 4 of them? 3 of them? Really, really tough for Lozano getting in damage right now. And I almost think that there's an argument to be made, hey, if you can, try to play for a draw almost, I think, in Lozano's situation.
It's really unfortunate for Lozano's princesses because there's both arrows and log in the deck. There's like no way for that princess to actually sit on the board for a while and take multiple shots throughout the game.
Oh man, Erick's Hog Rider defense is really on point. Bowler plus Skeletons actually body blocked the Hog for long enough that it did not get a single swing off on that tower, and now Erick is going to be able to use the Bowler on a counter push.
Well, those Giants just keep coming down the left side lane. Ice Golem, not a great defense. You can tell Lozano's just struggling to get back to his Mini Peck and his Mega Minion. Those are the 2 highest damage troops in this game.
Wow.
But when you play them both at the same time like that, you really become vulnerable to lightning. And I think it's not too much further for Erick to win either from spells or giant punches.
Bowler is such a great card to stop Hog Rider because positioning and timing is all key. The Bowler messes with both of them, pushes the Hog Rider away and messes up the timing of its swings. And I really feel like Lozano has a ton of trouble, especially because the Bowler will also kill the Ice Spirit that assists the Hog Rider, and it's really been hurting Lozano's pushes.
I think the tower now is getting low enough that if it's surrounded by units, the lightning may not hit it. You may have to use logs and arrows to actually finish it off because lightning only attacks the 3 highest health targets within its range.
Lozano continuing to be frustrated, and I think you're right.
This might go to a draw.
This, I think if Lozano gets 1 punch with that Giant. Yeah, a lightning, 1 punch, anything. Spells.
Still saving up Elixir. Oh, you're right, there's only 8 seconds left.
Yeah.
You get lightning arrows.
Lightning log.
Arrows?
No, he's got arrows in.
Log?
The arrows isn't enough, he's got a log now too. He's got a log, it's not gonna reach.
Wow.
Oh,
Right down to the moment.
wow.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
The first draw of the Clash Royale North American
Look at
Open.
this. Look at this. This is just, I don't know what this emotion is. Hey.
That's the
There's
facepalm, buddy.
no
Okay.
emote for this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Rainy? Well, Rainy's
I have
not
an
going to be
emote for
joining
that.
us for a little bit, folks. He's going to take a quick break. He's just going to go into hiding. We'll talk to him later.
Read.
Talk to him later.
Here's my emote for that. If I'm Lozano, I'm sitting on the other side of my iPad going.
Seriously though,
Absolutely.
that was crazy. So the Bowler knockback versus the log knockback. What is the difference there? When do you decide what to play? I don't have either. So
That's good. That's a good point. So both cards knock back, and they knock back the same distance. When you get hit, you get pushed back. I think it's 2 squares, 2 tiles.
Yeah.
The key though is that Bowler knocks back any small or medium-sized units. That's your goblins, your Valkyries, your Hog Riders, mini P.E.K.K.A.s, those sort of things. It doesn't knock back big troops. Big troops are giants, other bowlers, princes upon their horse, right? Those are all big troops and don't get knocked back. The log, though, is legendary, and the log hunts at night. The log knocks back any troop in the game, including giants, including golems. Anything on the ground doesn't hit the air, but anything on the ground gets pushed back by the log. So I think what the key there is that you want to use bowler for the Hog Rider because it's medium sized, but anytime something really big or tough comes down, use the log. In that case, log was being used to kill Princess.
Yeah.
A
One
lot.
thing
But
also.
I love Princess.
Yeah. One thing I also don't quite get is like if you look at the log's origin story, he says, obviously the lumberjack, he spilled his rage and he's gonna go get revenge. But I mean, like, the lumberjack kind of created him. I understand, he's mad. But
I think
he's
we all
born
know
now.
the story of Dr. Frankenstein.
Okay.
And I
the
think this is a
log.
very similar situation. He was
Yeah.
chopping, and finally the
Too
log
much.
chopped back.
That's right. That's right. Well,
my
ladies and gentlemen, Lozano and Erick, that was a draw. So no one won with either of their decks. So we're going to be going into the next game. It's still 0-0. So looking though right now, would you switch up your decks if you were them?
If I'm Lozano, I might. I don't want to be throwing Hog Riders
Yeah,
into
that was
bowlers all
close.
day.
Yeah,
That was ugly.
That
Yeah.
was too close.
He's gonna have to face the facts eventually, but if you can, Yeah, it's tough.
Let the
What
bowler
have
deck
you
win.
done?
Let
Yeah.
the Wookiee win, buddy. Let the bowler deck win, because then it's out. You don't have to deal with it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a pretty smart
Okay.
one. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at it now. Who's going to get the first point going to semifinals? Will it be Lozano? Will it be Erick? Which decks did they bring?
Right.
Lozano bringing his bowler deck, and normally I would make fun of this level 3 bowler, but yesterday we saw what level 3 epics can do.
Is
Lozano's
Lozano
so
the
mad.
chosen
Judgment
one?
here.
He could be the chosen one.
But we'll see, just like yesterday, the level 4 bowler's feeling pretty good about winning this matchup. Oh, the Ice Spirit slipped right by.
I think it's very uncommon that you see that happen when the bowler is down the lane. But what's going to be interesting is how do these two cards or these two pushes exchange? Now, Lozano has Giant Musketeer on the left. Meanwhile, Erick has Giant Bowler on the right. Now, Musketeer might be a less elixir card, but it does a lot of damage per second. The big thing is that Erick's Bowler and Giant are much more survivable, and you can see both of them stay alive for much longer, giving them more output, more damage overall.
They're going for it now.
I don't know why Lozano's mad about that. He took a tower for less elixir and faster.
Yes.
If that were to happen again in overtime, he'd be thrilled. But yeah, this is a tough matchup because generally decks of a given type really struggle with beating themselves. Like there's not a lot of decks that are good at their own mirror matches. And here you have two Giant Bowler decks. I don't really know what these, like looking at their deck list, there's nothing that really jumps out to me as like, oh man, that card's really good in the Giant Bowler matchup, aside from the Mega Minion that they're both playing anyways.
Ooh, that Musketeer actually barely avoids the rock coming across, and that's actually going to be pretty important. Erick decides to spend Lightning to remove it from the board, but that's 6 elixir down that I think Lozano is going to feel pretty comfortable using for defense. I think Lozano is he should be pretty happy with that push.
One of the key things to remember about Bowler is that even though it knocks back, it doesn't do a ton of damage. So against something like Giant that it doesn't knock back, it's actually not a very effective anti-tank card. And we saw Lozano's Giant just wailing on that tower while the Bowler was trying to hit it, but just didn't, it wasn't significant.
Again, precise positioning by Lozano places the Musketeer just barely out of range of the Bowler and did not get the Musketeer hurt by the Skeletons either. That's a big Lightning, going to remove the Mega Minion as well as hurt the Bowler a significant amount. A traded Lightning for getting that Giant up to the tower. One big issue that I'm beginning to see now for Erick is that he's been constantly trying to push the 3 crown, and meanwhile, Lozano has been getting little bits of chip damage on that right side tower, and if Erick can't close this out, taking down all that health of the tower, I think that Erick might just throw this game away.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good for Erick right now. That gambit to go for the 3 crown push, or just really to go down the towerless lane, it's really coming back to bite him as he's finding himself about 1,200 damage behind in the race going into overtime.
All right, we're going to hit overtime now, and really, if you're trying to make an argument for going 3 crown or left side tower, they're about at the same health. And meanwhile, your opponent only has 953 health to chew through on that right side. It might get bad for Erick.
I think that Tombstone's doing a lot of work. If you notice, the Bowler's getting distracted by other stuff up the lane, allowing those Skeletons to build up onto the Giant. Whoa, really do some work there.
One swing, and that's significant. We're actually in territory where 2 Lightnings will win the game for Lozano, and this is a bad situation for Erick.
Yep, all he has to do is cycle back to a Lightning before losing his King Tower, and I believe he's going to take this game home. What Erick can do now is if he can drop some units around the tower, maybe those will absorb the Lightning shots, but he doesn't have something like...
Oh no.
Guard, oh no.
You're cutting it close, buddy.
He's saving up for the Lightning to win the game is what he's doing.
Yep.
There it is.
Play it, please.
No, doesn't have it?
Do not throw this game. Do not.
Come on, Lozano.
Do you hear us, Lozano?
Do not throw this game.
Come on, Erick, you got him.
He's just trying to get back to 6 there.
We got locked.
Pretty sure it's a level 3 Lightning. Oh my god, that was way too close to
my.
call.
Oh, it's a level 3 Lightning. Oh my god, you're right, because we're wondering. Lozano knows his deck better than we do. We're wondering, like, well, Lightning the thing.
Why's doing it?
He knew. 8 health. 8 health.
Look, Ender yesterday
Wow.
setting the standard for bringing lower cards to us. Hey, you have
worked.
lower cards, you can play.
It worked, yeah, it's a strategy.
It's a strategy.
But it's a skill game. I mean, even though we're playing at the tournament cap, people on the ladder, of course, have tournament cap cards all over the place.
Yeah.
People with tournament cap cards range anywhere from like 1,200 trophies, from 1,500 trophies, all the way up to 4,000 plus trophies.
Yeah.
So skill plays a huge impact in a game of Clash Royale. And even though his epics are 1 level lower,
He still got it.
Well, what was it that won it for him? Was it something in the deck, or was it his smarts?
There was definitely a few situations where Lozano had expert placement of, I'll give you one example. He's got a Mega Minion down. Opponent plays a Mega Minion, but because that Mega Minion takes 1 second to cool up, the other Mega Minion gets to attack attack first. And so even though they're going wah, 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 Lozano's would survive and then troll around the board, chopping up giants and bowlers that can't shoot it out of the sky. The only card that really jumped out to me, the difference between the two decks that was really important though, was Tombstone in Lozano's deck.
Okay.
If you play a giant Ellie and it's coming down the lane at me, yeah, that's great giant impression. You're red-headed just like him too, so this is perfect, right? You play the Tombstone. If they don't have a way to get rid of those skeletons, they're just going to build up on the front of the giant. Giant ignores them, taking damage, more damage, even more damage, even more damage, and then when he gets up to the Tombstone, starts fighting that thing, which releases even more skeletons, and eventually you've got a free skeleton army just beating on your giant. No good. We saw that happen.
Those are bad news.
We know those skeleton armies are no good.
Rainey, if we were to take all the damage that Erick did to Lozano's King Tower and put it onto the Crown Tower, would he have won that game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It only had 600
Just
health
purely,
left.
purely numerically, yes.
Okay.
But I also think effectively and executionally, you are safer pushing on that left side tower. In some ways, because you can drop the giant in the middle, have your supporting troops come across on your safe side. Okay, it's really hard to explain this.
No, this is
Do you need a Venn diagram?
I wish I had.
Wait, we can draw. Here, you can draw right now.
Okay,
Oh.
you guys handle the game. I'm gonna spend my time.
Yeah, you
Okay,
do.
great. You
I'll
do
cover
that.
you, Rainey. Rainey's definitely a better artist than I am.
Now Lozano's up 1-0. Lozano's got to go back to that hog deck. Let's see how he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a little worried about it now because, that bowler deck never actually got off the field. So he's got to win somehow one game with the Hog Rider deck against this bowler deck in order to advance into the semifinals. It's going to be really tough. The best thing that Lozano can do is bait out that bowler into another lane. Somehow get that bowler on the board and then immediately play a Hog Rider on the other side.
Lozano seems like a really angry guy.
So angry.
He's emotional. He's an emotive
He's
guy.
an emotive guy.
Hey, what's the point of playing games if you can't get worked up about them? That's my thought.
That's a great philosophy.
Can't get mad about work. Can't get mad about school.
Why get mad?
You just got to do them.
It's only
you can get
game.
mad about games. That seems all right.
It's only game.
There you go.
Maybe he's just red-faced like normal, and that's him smiling.
Oh yeah.
You can never rule that out.
That's true.
But again, another bowler comes down the lane. The nice thing for Lozano is that bowler's not a great offensive card unless it has a tank in front of it. It costs a lot of elixir. It doesn't have that many hit points for the cost. So something like Mega Minion or Musketeer, or even just a distractor like Ice Golem can be enough for the tower to shoot it down without it really doing significant damage.
Now here's the thing too. Erick, I think, is doing a really smart thing. He's bringing that bowler deck again because he drew at least with Lozano against the Hog. So how do you think Lozano's now going to switch up his strategy going into the same deck? Do you think are we seeing anything different so far? Is he doing anything?
It definitely helps that he knows right away that it's a bowler deck, right? So he can react a little bit there, but. Kind of like we saw with Darth Jar Jar in the Three Musketeers versus Lightning, there's not a lot you can do against Lightning as a Three Musketeers deck. There's only so many ways to play around it. And in the same way, if Erick just never commits the bowler to the board unless there's something worth bowling over, then it's hard to get it out of his hand. He's going to drop things like Mega Minion. He's going to drop things like Ice Spirit, Skeletons, Log, and use all those for defense. And that bowler's only coming out when the Hog Rider starts coming down the lane.
All right, guys, I think I did it.
I
think I did it.
Wow. All right, we'll say this. We'll say this for
later.
This is what we were talking about. He was able to get the bowler came down on Erick's side, and that gave Lozano an opportunity. Now maybe Erick is okay with this because this just splits the damage up. Look at that, 2006 on both.
Good year.
Great year. New radicals all over the
Super
radio.
good year.
Absolutely.
Oh
yeah.
God.
It was. Here comes. So once again, though, he's going to try to do another set of hog riding, and it's just no hog riding on the grass, is what Bowler says.
This is the element of double deck where you really just have to make sure that your decks are solid all the way around because eventually you must face your fears. Mini P.E.K.K.A. gets held up by the skeletons. Strangely enough, it doesn't take any damage for the skeletons, and good placement on the ice skeletons to stop that bowler from getting damage on the tower. Bowler was actually just played on the left side. There's only 1 second left, and the log is coming through.
There it is.
There it is.
Erick tying it up 1-1 against Lozano. So now, Erick has run that deck 3 times in a row. Finally worked for him.
Yeah.
He's got to switch it up. It'll be interesting to see what he runs next. But Lozano gets to keep that hog because, again, double deck, you have to win with both of your decks to move on. Both these guys 1 step away from the semifinals.
Can I ask, where was the bowler yesterday?
Yeah,
we
didn't see him at all.
see it at all.
And
now
bet
it's
you,
so popular.
You're right. So prior to the last round of balance changes, Giant Bowler was one of the most popular decks, if not the most popular deck in the format, along with Poison. And I think yesterday, so many people were afraid of playing Giant Poison, afraid of playing Bowler, that they...
Like, oh, it's known.
Yeah, everyone just thought that they were going to be the only person playing Expo decks. And you're right. So the Bowler is great against Expo for a couple reasons. It has a good amount of hit points.
Okay.
It fights at range. And because its rock goes all the way through, it doesn't matter what's in front of it. When the Expo player does something like, skeleton army in front of my Expo, the Bowler's just like, whee! Right? Rolls the rock right over all of the skeletons, and it'll still hit the Expo behind it. So think how many times yesterday we saw those strangleholds between each other where they're playing Ice Golem and Guards and Skeleton Army, and everything's just fighting in the middle while the Expo just plunks away.
Yeah.
Bowler doesn't care about any of that.
He's super good.
And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of it today.
Is
If I
Bowler
recall.
the new Expo?
Now, actually, there are 3 Giant Bowler decks. I think yesterday there was probably a whole bunch of people sitting at home watching all these Expo decks and going,
I could beat
How
them.
do
I know how to beat those decks, right? And they're showing up today. We've got a lot of Giant Bowlers.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, we got to make sure we get
Is
this.
it art time?
Because this is, you're the next Picasso.
Is it art
This
time
looks
with
like, this
Ray?
looks so
I can't
abstract and
wait.
beautiful.
I
All right, so I'm going to hold it up, you explain.
Let's have a lesson on extended drop zone. Now, the reason why...
This is great.
The reason why... Okay, I even got the colors correct. Notice
Yeah,
the bridge,
very good.
the water is blue, the bridge is brown, and we've got the blue side and the red side. So
Good
when you
job.
take down the tower, actually, what I mean by extended drop zone is you get an extra area where you can place units down.
Right.
That's great for you because you can change up your line of play later into the push. Your opponent needs to defend earlier, and you can change up the way that the units interact with each other by dropping units into this particular area. And,
Especially right in the middle, right?
and so this arrow is where Erick would typically push down, right?
Okay.
You can see that he gets all the way halfway into his opponent's zone, and he still has control of how his push plays out. So you're safer. Problem being is this tower here has much more health than this tower here. So you want to essentially attack this tower on the left side. What you do is if you place a giant in the center position, it will actually move towards this left side tower
immediately?
before it goes to the king tower. And units on this side, if they try to play anything to defend against this giant here, these units will contribute to this push and follow the giant all the way to the left side tower, giving you a very, very safe. I just made brown all over that picture. That's
great. That was some quality John Madden level telescoping. I really loved it.
And we're going around. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, our next game, unless this is a draw, one of these two are going on to the semifinals. Will it be Lozano? Will it be Erick? Let's find out.
I have a
Spectators are
confession.
piling in too. If you look in the top right-hand corner, spectators are coming in because they're excited to see this game.
My parents were worried for me, actually, when I was a kid because I could not color within the lines in kindergarten.
Well,
Really?
you just proved them wrong.
I think you were just a rule breaker.
I just think you're an artist.
The lines did not control
You're
me.
just an artist, Rainey.
I got kicked out of kindergarten for spitting in the principal's face. It's a 100% true story.
Oh,
And now I do video games
And
professionally.
now I do video games.
Take that.
And we wondered what
education
went wrong.
system.
Right. Rebellion. Montessori schools, you can't keep me down. So let's see. Now here's the big advantage for Erick. Erick knows right off the bat this is a Hog Rider deck, and it looks like a pretty unfortunate matchup for Lozano because he's got an Inferno Tower, a great defensive building against Hog Riders.
Actually, the positioning for Lozano was interesting because the Mega Minion soaked up the initial damage of the Inferno Tower, got good swings on it. The Hog Rider, actually, despite the fact that the Inferno Tower was played in response to it, still got a swing off. In terms of a 4 to 5, 5 for the Inferno Tower, 4 for the Hog Rider, that's actually a big win for Lozano.
Right. Ooh, great Ice Golem played in front to soak a lot of those the Expo shots, and that lets the Mini P.E.K.K.A. swing one big time on that Expo. Mini P.E.K.K.A. does so much damage with every swing that even just hitting the Expo once chops off a significant amount of the damage it could do to your tower.
A little bit of damage taken by the Expo, and Lozano actually gets pushed back into kind of the losing territory of this match in terms of tower health. Not the biggest indicator of whether you're ahead or behind, but interesting to take note.
Erick has a slight elixir advantage too, so he's a little bit ahead in damage, a little bit ahead in elixir, but of course things can change every single push. Like you said though, right there, I think I would just not follow this up at all. That's good for Lozano. You spent 4, your opponent spent 5. That's all right.
Absolutely. And what you need to look to do is not get dunked by this crossbow. Ice Golem instead. He has a level 6 Ice Golem, Rumham.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah, no, fun.
Go, Lozano, go.
But that just shows, you know, how skillful a lot of these players are. They're not letting that hold them back.
How fast is a cycle?
Great.
Too fast for Erick, and the Hog Rider makes a big connection. Hog Rider, Ice Spirit, that's probably my favorite 5 elixir.
Yeah, Hog Rider Ice Spirit is a really cool combo because the Ice Spirit trails behind, and if your opponent plays any single unit, something like a Mini P.E.K.K.A. or a Mega Minion, the Ice Spirit jumps on it, letting the Hog Rider ride right past, deal a lot of damage to the tower.
It's kind of like the California super healthy version of Hog Freeze.
Lean and mean.
Exactly. Ooh, oh, get a swing.
Actually, those 2 swings were really critical. That
Yeah.
Expo is already significantly less deadly than all the other Expos we might be seeing because it took half of its health before it ever fired a shot.
Ninja Mini P.E.K.K.A. took it down in one fell swoop. Good defense on that Expo.
The challenge for Lozano is, even though it's cool enough that your opponent, you know, will play an expensive Inferno Tower, you have to actually kill the Inferno Tower after, because if you let it sit there for too long, your opponent does get to cycle back. It's possible he has another Inferno Tower ready to go.
There it is. He's got the Ice Spirit to assist the Hog Rider in this push, but the Mega Minion on top will make sure that the Hog Rider doesn't get enough damage onto it. Question is, during this time that the Inferno Tower is burning out, can another Hog Rider be played right as it leaves?
There's already been at least 2, 3, 4 cards. He should have Hog Rider back in hand now. Yep,
Yeah.
there it is.
And I think the cycle for Erick as well is pretty solid, but the Hog actually jumps onto the Expo rather than the tower, and I think that was very intentional by Lozano because he knew he was running out of options to defend the Expo.
Wow.
It's coming down to the wire now.
And that shows how deadly Expo is. I mean, even with most of its health gone, it did, what, 500 damage to that tower? It's significant.
Ice Golem traded with Ice Golem. Inferno
here-
Tower to be played.
Yeah, the goal there is to have the Ice Golem be the target of the Inferno Tower, which allows the Hog Rider to ride a little further ahead with full health, but the Ice Spirit of Erick's froze the Hog Rider in place, letting the Inferno Tower finish it off.
Inferno Tower is actually really low health though, and I think another Hog Rider to be played might actually do really, really well. Ice Golem is actually tanking up for said Hog Rider. No, there's another Inferno Tower. The cycle continues, Rumham, and I think this is looking really, really sticky for Lozano.
Double Princess.
Interestingly
stop those
enough, actually, Erick has been committing all his logs to the left side to get chip damage, and he hasn't been clearing the princesses off the board.
Ooh, that was quite the Hog Rider jump. That was some fromage. Right, that's a dancing hog.
The dancing hog. Dancing hog.
Dressage, just the word. Dressage.
I had no idea what you were going for there.
There's a fromage and cheese.
Nod my head and yes, I know what you're talking about.
Whatever, Rumham.
Well, there we
that
go.
was really tough there.
Erick moving on to our semifinals. Congratulations to him.
Congrats.
Lozano getting close, but not quite there.
So Lozano had Mini P.E.K.K.A. in his deck. How do you play the miniature P.E.K.K.A.? How do you play that in
Don't insult the guy.
in a smart way? Because it's always been tricky for me. He just seems to kind of die.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. is it seems like he'd be a really good offensive card because he does a lot of damage. It's fun to watch him go hurrah on a tower.
And he sounds great.
Yeah, he sounds great. And it's the little hop, it's so cute. But it's actually more of a defensive card than anything.
Okay.
It's the best card you could play against an incoming giant, an incoming Hog Rider, for example. Anything that has a lot of hit points and doesn't fight back, Mini P.E.K.K.A. loves to beat up on those things, right? So Mini P.E.K.K.A., for example, kills a hog in 2 chops. So 1 chop, 2 chop, Hog Rider's dead. Christian, because he's a Hog Rider player, spent 4. I spent 4 on my Mini P.E.K.K.A. Your hog's dead.
Yours
My Mini
lives.
P.E.K.K.A. is full alive, and it's
Yeah.
going to run back across the river, and you're going to have to spend some elixir to stop it from
plan.
chopping your tower.
That was my plan.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look at our first replay here of these past games where we've got the Giant and we've got the Lightning.
This is why you play Giant with Lightning. There.
Done. Replay, done.
I mean, look at it. The Giant is actually just,
so good.
as Rumham likes to tell us, fireball. Fireball.
Yeah, every punch is a fireball. That's pretty wild. Yeah, the lightning is really key in those sort of situations because you're expecting an opponent to play 2 sturdy units, at least 2 sturdy units. So they got Mini P.E.K.K.A. for 4, Mega Minion for 3. You're like, that's 7 elixir worth of units. That's worth doink doink lightning off right off the board.
Yeah.
Expo.
So now, yeah, that was the other thing that was super surprising to me is that Expo had no health, it looked like, at the end, and he still just did hundreds of damage to the tower. Running a Hog versus an Expo, does the Hog beat, if you just those 2 units, does the Hog beat the Expo right
Yes.
out? Okay,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so if you're an Expo player and you see your opponent draw, what was it that Erick did so well to be able to counteract a card that directly counters his Expo?
Well, Lozano only called Erick's bluff once, right? He only played the Hog Rider against the Expo 1 time. The big thing is that a lot of people get into this mindset where the Hog Rider needs to get to the tower and do damage to the tower. But you can also employ Hog Riders in many different ways. Many people like to play Inferno Tower against the Hog Rider. A strategy is play the Hog Rider, make them play the Inferno, and then play something that the Inferno would have killed otherwise, right? When the Inferno is now lower health. Similar to Expo, they play Expo, you play your Hog Rider to take down their Expo. It's a 4 for 6. Do it. Do it.
It's an
They're going to defend the
beneficial.
Expo.
Yeah.
They're going to defend the Expo, so you're going to need to deal with the cards that he drops to defend it. But purely from Hog versus Expo, you're gaining 2 elixir on that trade.
I think in that situation, honestly, that's what Lozano should have been doing.
Yeah.
You know that with the bowler, it's not going to work, so you're better off just Hog Rider into the Expo, drop the log right after to kill those guards or whatever he's going to put in front. Might have turned out better, but of course, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? We can always speculate.
If I would have gone back
happened.
and done this, and then he would have done this, and then I would have won. Either way, again, I just want to remind everyone here, making it to the top 8 is a huge achievement for these guys. So just because you're seeing them kind of, oh, he lost, he went, no, like he gone through 40,000 of you guys to get here.
In this matchup, so.
Both of them start pretty cautiously. Ooh, the bowler. Oh no, what's bowler doing behind the king tower?
Ooh,
good thing the giant came down to soak that in.
Roasted time.
Yeah, could have been a terrible situation. Mega Minion versus Mega Minion. Nice. Wow, Erick's Mega Minion actually wins out against that. Lightning gets played for.
Giant bowler Mega Minion takes a lightning. Giant bowler still standing.
Yep, giant bowler still standing, and the bowler is going to convert to at least 1 bowler on that tower unless Rubens plays. Two. I'm so good at this. Oh my gosh.
Bowler's just having fun out there every time. Just whee! No one's having more fun in the Clash Royale arena than Bowler. But again, actually, this is a weird play to me by Erick. You'd think that he'd want to save the bowler for the Expo, but it's possible that he's playing it only when he has Giant in hand, and he's really playing the bowler behind the King Tower to bait the Expo out so he can then drop Giant.
I think you identified it exactly right. Mega Minion played, and this is a good example of gaining air superiority, right? Make sure that you play your Mega Minion in a way that it's protected from the opponent's Mega Minion, and so you can convert your own drop to something further.
I think Trainer Rubens is going into a plan B, and here's my guess at what the plan B is. The plan B is get an Expo in the middle of the field, defend against a giant bowler push, and as soon as it goes down, if your Expo is still alive, play a second Expo at the river with the one in the center defending the freshly placed one.
Interesting that Bowler let one of the Fire Spirits jump, and that actually evens up the match a little closer than I think Erick would like. But now he has to face the giant Bowler push coming down much closer to his river than I think Trainer Rubens is comfortable with. That Boulder is actually cleaving onto the tower in the back. Big damage done by Trainer Rubens already, and a big lightning coming out. And those Fire Spirits get taken down. This Bowler is going to have a ton of fun.
Yeah, I actually, even though the tower damage was very even before that push, I don't think the game was that close, because once your opponent shows you Giant and Bowler, your Expo is significantly less effective. I don't see how Trainer Rubens can actually set up an Expo that's going to be effective, so this might be death by 1,000 boulders.
No, that was interesting. I wonder why. So if you guys missed it, Erick actually played Lightning, but he missed the tower on the left side, and I think he definitely could have gotten that based on where the crossbow was positioned.
Was it possible that there were 3 higher health units nearby?
Possible.
So
that tower is pretty low
Expo,
health.
there's, Mega Minion has about 700 health. It's possible that
Hopefully we can see that moment again.
That was definitely an accident, because that 100% should have died. That tower should have gone down right then. He might have been off by 1 square. So he's just got to get back to Lightning. And normally that could be a fatal game-losing mistake, but Erick is in such control of this game. The matchup is so bad for Rubens with the Giant Bowler versus Expo. The nice part for Trainer Rubens, at least, is that this Giant Bowler deck that's about to win is off the board. You can't play it for the remainder of the match. So Rubens gets to Expo against whatever Erick's second deck is.
And now I think you can see why we were so surprised that yesterday we didn't see Giant Bowler as a deck.
Look how effective it is. I mean, that was like when Rainey plays Christian. Like, that's how dominant that game was there. That was pretty gross. But it was all just because, and that's not because Trainer Rubens is a bad player, but because matchups can matter a lot. And sometimes I pull up my 8 cards, you pull up your 8 cards, and I'm going 4 out of 5 times I'm losing this game, right? Sure. And that was that situation.
Okay, so if a bowler bowls and then he dies, does his boulder still make it to the tower?
Yeah, once it's out of his hands,
then
it's on its own.
It's like its own thing.
We have seen some really close games right in Super Magical Cup where a bowler gets killed in that last that last drifting bolt rock ends up knocking the tower down and
Oh, wow.
takes it home. So it wasn't a situation there. It didn't need to be that close, but yeah.
One of the things also I see is that a lot of these decks, the players aren't playing their final card. We don't see what the 8th card in their deck is. Is that, Rainey, their flex card, do you think? Is that a card that they just didn't find useful to use? Or why wouldn't you use all 8?
I think it really depends on the situation. In that scenario, I feel like the game was so... I don't know if there were many more things that could have happened in terms of interactions in that match. Unless the decks were wildly different, I think that they kind of played out how it would be.
All right, well, into the next game. Erick up 1-0 against Rubens. If Erick takes this, he's going to the finals.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about using all 8 of your card slots in decks last Coronation Day. And
So that was
this hurts.
So what happened right there was, right off the bat, Erick wanted to start with his Expo because he thought, well, maybe if he doesn't have an answer to Expo in his opening hand, this will be really effective. Now, Trainer Rubens did have an Inferno Tower, but the double Ice Spirit that froze each side of the field allowed the guards to get down, and then when they came out of the freeze, the Inferno Tower started attacking the guards instead of the Expo.
Did not want to take infinity damage.
No, not at all. Although, to Trainer Rubens' credit, he did a decent amount of damage to both towers. He did more total damage, really, but it split up across the 2 towers.
Erick is going to look to buy back his way into this game. He's going to play the Ice Spirit. Interestingly enough, probably played that to pass a turn. I would not imagine why you would want to use your Ice Spirit on an Inferno Tower just randomly in the middle of nowhere.
Probably just a cycle, get out of his hand.
Yeah.
Maybe the next card that was coming up, he knew he wanted to have in his hand to get it down. I like Erick, though. I think Erick is also setting up for the same situation, the Expo to defend the second Expo. I mean, it sounds weird because it seems like that's a really intricate, long-form strategy, but when you know that it's not going to be easy just to play an Expo by the river, you have to go to your plan B. And I think plan B in this case is, whoa, look at that! Or just shoot the princess from across the board.
Oh man, and that was actually really interesting. The Ice Golem exploded on the Mega Minion on Trainer Rubens' side, and that allowed the Mega Minion on Erick's side to actually win that duel.
The Expo did not need, actually, he didn't need to fireball that tower at all. He could have just let the Expo shoot it, but I don't think he realized the long range of that Expo. And here we go, we see why they would set up. That Inferno Tower, but by the time it starts attacking, was already at half health, almost solely to the middle Expo, keeping it away.
Leapfrog has to play the Mega Minion soon enough, and I think they're going to trade because of the projectile speed. Oh no! Actually, I think it was an Ice Spirit down there for Erick. Won out that exchange again. And
Expo's going to turn around.
Air superiority for Erick is really coming in big for him.
Absolutely. But Rubens is able to get in some damage here, even though might be a little worried here about that Expo on the right side. I think he feels comfortable that he can use a rotation of minor and spells to take down that left tower and at least push it into overtime.
I'm actually super interested in the fact that Erick did not choose to use the log on the skeleton army in that situation. I feel like he probably could have gotten a lot of damage if he just chose to do that, while Trainer Rubens had to commit elixir on the left side to trade towers.
Well, now he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. That left tower is down. Oh no!
Lock on.
Oh, and the miner isn't distracting it. It's just in front.
God.
Oh no! This looks like a lot of health.
This is a classic.
That's it.
That's it.
The fireball, if nothing else.
There it is.
And Erick takes the game.
Classic Expo win. Yeah. Perfect. The line of play was absolutely accurate to what Erick needed to do.
Yeah, Erick wins with his Expo deck, wins with his Giant Bowler deck. He 2-0s in the semifinals. That's a pretty strong statement going into the finals.
Yes.
Rubens, who was so good against Darth Jar Jar, really felt like he was not in that match in a lot of ways. I mean, that first game was really bad. The second game was closer, but Erick had no trouble setting up Expos and getting them locked onto the towers. It was not that sort of struggle that we saw in a lot of Expo decks yesterday.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, congratulations there. We have our first one, Erick, going in. Let's take a look at our first replay. We have a Giant, a Lightning, and Randy, you said this is why this is such a great combo. Let's take a look at it again.
This is why Giant Lightning is such a great combo. Right, actually, is this the one where he misses? Pay close attention.
Oh.
Nope.
Oh.
It's here. Yeah, that's not. So effective. Giant Lightning is actually so effective. Even though the Giant's down, the bowler is actually so healthy. He's at 25% health, but he gets at least 1 or 2 rolls left. You have to play guards to eliminate the bowler off the field because you know he's going to get a lot more damage if you don't.
And we've mentioned a few times that if you know the game is going to go into overtime, setting up to be at an advantage once the game goes into overtime. And that's what we're seeing here in this. That expo was set up. Erick didn't really try to defend his left tower because he knew it was going to go down. Instead, he just wanted to make sure that he was so far ahead in the race for the second tower.
Right. Also, Brady, walk me through kind of that situation where you're a tower down. You know that, okay, I've got the spells to be able to finish off my opponent's tower. But now your goal is to do that while your opponent just now gets to start focusing on the other side. How do you balance that? How do you make sure that you're not losing too much elixir being on offense?
It's a mind game. You have to stay one step ahead of your opponent, right? Your opponent will be playing the mathematical solution because it favors him, right? He says, okay, I'm going to wait until you have to invest elixir on the weak tower, and then I'm just going to play on the other lane and make sure that, okay, you can have that tower. It's too low for me to defend anyways, but I'm going to make sure that that 4 elixir you are using on the fireball, you sorely miss. So I'm going to play X amount of elixir plus 4 on the other side to punish you for not having that. What you need to do is understand that, okay, down the road, this is a situation that I'm gonna have to deal with if overtime comes to pass, right? So you need to start playing units back behind your king tower so you can kind of fake them out, right? Say like, okay, I'm gonna feign ignorance and play a big push on the left side, and then your opponent might look at that and say like, oh my god, if I let that push go through and try to just call his bluff and play everything on the right side, if that push is big enough, it could maybe do something like 3 crown or threaten something, an additional danger, right? And that's how you need to start thinking about these situations. You may be mathematically down, then you need to start playing against your opponent's fears.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm at the point right now where if I see something being threatened to me, I'm like, oh, I just feel like a squirrel, you know, it's like, oh, I gotta get this now.
And you shouldn't feel that way. Defending is actually at a huge advantage in Clash Royale. You get to see what your opponent plays first and then play the best card in your hand that matches up against that with the assistance of a tower. So just let the nerves, and be like these players. Calm, nerves. No one is freaking out, I'm sure,
these guys
on the other side
pros.
of their phone.
They're not spamming really angry faces at all. These guys are just great.
So, you guys have sent us your haikus.
That's right, we have one here.
We've got one.
This one comes from someone we've never heard before, Cranny Torso.
He's just
1, 2, 3, absolutely amazing. Here it goes. It's called Cleanup. Who left this rock here? I'll just incinerate it. Now 2 rocks to clean. Thank you, Crane Torso. Your mind is needed in more than just this. You should get into politics. You should be a teacher. You should start writing amazing. This is gorgeous.
Or just play video games all day.
Or hey, play video games because it's working out. It's super great. Super fantastic.
Did it pass the test? Teacher Arthur was over there counting out the...
Were you creating images in your mind of what this would look like?
Yeah, there would be 1 rock, and there would be a stick figure with a question mark above his head. Then he would look over, and then there would be 2 rocks, and then he would be sitting on the floor, really sad with a frowning face, maybe a little tear.
I'm picturing.
I've got some interpretive dance. I think that might.
Pablo Picasso.
Right, okay. You just go.
We've got.
There.
Okay.
1 rock, incinerate, 2 rocks. I was a mime for many moons.
You are amazing. Someone please take that video and then put music to it, and then we'll just keep that on a nice loop. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the bracket now before we go into our next semifinals event. So we have Rubens falling to Erick. Erick moves on as our first finalist. Up next, Clyde versus Goose. Now, my question actually is going to be for you, Rumham, because we're talking about Clyde being a favorite here coming in. We were talking about him in the pre-show, but Goose seems like he's your man.
Out of nowhere.
Who are you gonna choose from him?
Well, in the world of
colors and moving on for a chance at the crown duels.
Erick versus Clyde. Man,
great log.
Yeah, that log. That's one of the reasons.
No, I'm serious. I mean, like that log is such a beautiful card. It's the only 2 elixir card that's gonna take out Princess all the way back there.
Yep. Zap can't do it.
I mean, think about this. The Princess is still alive. She's shooting at that ice golem right now.
Sure.
Just taking elixir right out of your pocket.
Could even be damaging the tower.
Ooh, great time for that expo to come up because lightning just came out of Clyde's hand. He's down 6 elixir. He doesn't have that much to defend with.
And we were talking about your decision making on lightning is going to make or break this match. Good thing he has Tombstone down though.
Yes.
Oh, but the Tombstone is played too far back. Ah, God. Oh no. Counting how many bolts the crossbow shoots.
And I believe this is actually the golem deck, which is the worst situation for you to find yourself in, Clyde. Like you wanted to have that golem in hand, so if an Expo came down, you just drop the golem in the middle, forget about it. You're done. You're fine after that. But instead, it looks like he's going to lose a tower in the first minute and a half of the game.
Slow speed.
It's not quite done.
Ice Wizard's a pretty good anti-Expo card, but already Erick is moving towards the next cycle. Oh, no! Clyde did exactly what we didn't want to happen. We mentioned that. That's what happens. If you play the golem, you are most vulnerable. You're down 2 elixir, can't defend. If he would have seen the Expo, could have dropped the golem in front. Instead, Clyde was thinking, the Expo just died. I'll get my golem on the field now and then be ready for it. He did not think Erick already had cycled back to Expo.
Now, the game is not lost. We still have 1 minute 12, and the big problem with Expo against Golem is that you can't actually do so much damage to the Golem. It's entirely possible, and I think Clyde should really adjust his strategy to trying to 3-crown Erick.
That's a good point. You can just auto-win the game in the next minute or so if you can just 3-crown that. It's going to be tough, though, because...
He's going to get aggressive drop. I would say drop a second. No, Golem aggressively!
In the back.
We'll see. I think that might have been the smarter choice. There's no rush for time, and I think Clyde is probably smart to play patiently. I mean, he's a champion, I'm not, and I think he made the right decision.
The question for me is, can that golem even reach the tower meaningfully in the next 40 seconds? And golem is slow.
Yes, that is true.
And another Inferno Tower could come out and distract it away.
That's definitely, he's running out of time though. The Inferno is still going to go to the King Tower, so it really comes down to how much damage can, it's a big lightning, and this might be an aggressive tombstone too. The skeleton is going to be very, very key in this push. And I think Clyde's trying his best to make it happen. It's
the
a
skeleton's
slim shot.
Working.
It's going to take a miracle, but Clyde is working at it. There's 13 seconds left for something to happen, but no, I don't think he can, but I think he's on the right strategy.
All it needs is a log or a fireball.
It's so interesting too. I wonder if Clyde had been able to set that up somehow on the left side, which again, because of my mediocre lesson on drop zone advantage, you can't.
That was not mediocre.
You can't exactly emulate that situation. But if you look at the damage that he did to the King Tower, it's 2,000 damage plus. That could have very likely, if I don't know, the game would have to be so different. But I see a world where Clyde could have done the same thing, perhaps on that left side tower, and even the game up.
I think because of the Inferno Tower, it was actually smarter for Clyde to just pass on it, because here's the thing, 8 elixir, you can't support that golem with anything, and golem doesn't do that much damage.
Yes.
If you drop golem in the middle there into that Inferno Tower could reasonably kill both golems, and then you're in real trouble. And even if the golem does get free, the golem's not the thing 3-crowning, it's the archers behind it, it's the skeletons behind that. I think he was smart to try to build up that big push, but Erick correctly identified the situation. Don't be aggressive, don't be crazy. Let's just put everything on defense and hold it off.
So do we think that was just a bad matchup deck-wise for Clyde, or...
We'll see it in the replays. Here's exactly what happened. Twice in a row to open the game, Clyde invested a lot of elixir just as an Expo came down and didn't do it in the front yard like he should have. I think if Clyde wants to play the golem deck again, maybe if they were to replay that game, just start your golem pushes from the middle. Don't even worry about golem behind. The Expo deck can't stop you a lot of times. Like, it doesn't have a lot of good defense there. So just always start your golems close enough that they can absorb an Expo if one comes down.
Randy, you're talking about how you thought Clyde was going to play that golem aggressively. He's like, he's going to play it right in the middle. It's going to be great. He's going to go for it. And he decided to pull it back. Why do you think that was?
Well, the Inferno Tower was there already. Runham identified that very well. If you play the Golem in the middle and the Inferno Tower immediately locks onto it, the Golem is expensive enough that you don't actually have the supporting elixir to stop that Inferno Tower from burning it down. I was kind of wondering what that interaction would be like, because the first Golem had already split to mini Golems that could perhaps tank the Inferno Tower, but still, it's a very big gamble, and I think Clyde made the right choice, the safer choice, playing the Golem in the back.
It's a very similar setup, except this time that Golem might actually walk in front, and it does!
Yeah.
Now you see the difference, right? Starting the push right there from the middle of your base allows at least the Expo to not murder the tower. Not much you can do about that Inferno Tower. Maybe you could lightning it, but he's got he only had 4 elixir at the time, couldn't lightning it. But for future pushes.
I think lightning is definitely the play here. Just get the damage on the tower. Don't worry about putting the archers or the ice wizard anymore. Just lightning it, get the damage on the tower.
I think a log's going to come down at the top to stop this push with the guards.
Actually, Ice Wizard is going to help that golem do a pretty significant amount of damage. Much more than the archer. It's a race. The archer might kill the guard. No, doesn't get it. But still, significant damage done by Clyde.
And the princess might even be far enough back that she doesn't get hit by a log and is able to defend without taking any damage. That's great use of princess. You're asking when's a good time to princess? The one right there.
Bye.
The log hunts during the bright, sunny desert day as well, it turns out.
That's right. Sad.
Now, Erick is in a bad. Okay, so that's why. So why would you fireball a Tombstone, right? It's a 3 elixir card. It doesn't do much. Why would you spend 4 elixir on it? The answer is, as long as Tombstone's on the field, really hard to put up an Expo. So Clyde is going to rotate between his Tombstones and his Golems to prevent his opponent from ever having a clean path to the his own towers.
Fireball the Tombstone, but now has to deal with the Golem. Yes. There it is.
That's why there was no archers or ice wizard to back it up, because he knew he was saving that elixir to try to lightning, get damage on the tower, and continue to push further.
Yeah, and this Golem is probably not going to do significant amounts of damage, but really what Clyde's looking for is lightning damage on the tower, and then anything else he can get extra.
Tombstone's going to get the ice wizard down, and the Tombstone gets down. A lot of stuff there to gum up that potential Expo attack. Oh no, they were too close together for a fireball.
This is interesting. I think that lightning is the option to go here. Yeah.
We actually, if you remember yesterday, there was a Hog Lightning deck played by another member of TakeOver, the Killer Whale, who did really well against the Expo decks. He ultimately didn't win, but that Hog Lightning deck certainly earned its keep.
Yeah. Clyde is playing much better around these crossbows this time around. That's another lightning right there. Every single time.
The Inferno Tower might be out of range.
Yeah, I think so. But really, the Inferno Tower is not what you're worried about.
Very good point. You can just let it sit there. And actually, the blowing up of the Golems really helps. It kind of helped take it down. I think Clyde's he's waiting for that exact right moment. He's more worried about not letting an Expo get set up than he is about finishing the game.
Yes, I think playing defensively is absolutely the right choice. Here comes a Fireball. Needs to make sure that he has enough elixir to drop a Golem if he needs.
He needs to spread his stuff out a little more, too. I mean, that's twice now a critical Fireball that could have lost him the game comes down.
Ice Wizard Golem is on the field, and there's just no opportunity for Erick to play a crossbow, and I think that Clyde has played out his hand pretty well here.
Oh, wow, one more lightning. So even though Clyde has sub-1,000 health on his tower, if this Inferno Tower can go down, if you don't open yourself up to too many bad Expos, he might be able to win the game as soon as he gets back to 6 elixir.
That's going to be a Fireball to answer, but I think Clyde's going to trade that Fireball with a Lightning.
He's just trying to get it, and now he needs... Oh, no, what's that Princess doing? Next card should be a lightning. One more elixir. There's the 6. Does he shock it for the win?
There it is.
He does.
Yep.
That's a much cleaner win, and that's how you would normally expect that matchup to go, as opposed to in the first match. Clyde really maybe not super focused on the Expo matchup and played some classic mistakes that Erick very, very clearly identified and punished Clyde on.
Right.
Were those the same decks that we saw before?
I believe so.
Rematch. Total rematch.
Yeah, total rematch. So both of them have one win with each deck, but normally a win means you can't play the deck for the rest of the round. So we're playing best of 5. They each get one more win with each deck. So actually, 1-1, we're kind of starting that best of 3 right now with only one win for
that's a good way to look at it.
Yes.
What was different from the first game to the second? It was a big difference.
I think Clyde, you make 1 or 2 critical mistakes against Expo, you lose the game. And we saw that in the first game where in the very opening thing, he just couldn't stop that first Expo. Tower went down. Tried to play the Golem as kind of a bluff there, like, all right, I don't think he has Expo. I'm going to get the Golem down and try to build that big push. Gets punished with the second Expo. Fool him twice.
Shame on...
Yeah, you're not going to fool him a third time.
Shame on those people. Shame on those guys.
Everything's just so shameful.
Yeah. So, Rainey, talk to me. When you're playing against someone and it's kind of the beginning of the match, you have no idea what they're playing, you have no idea what cards are in their deck. How much of the first minute of the game, first 30 seconds, what's the time frame that you are trying to figure out your opponent versus you're executing your strategy?
You are playing cards intentionally to test your opponent, right? So, for example, a lot of players like to play crossbow at the start if they have it in hand because you are testing your opponent to see what cards they will play.
If they have a 50 chance, they don't have it.
Yeah, if they either don't have it, or if they do have it, they will certainly play it, right? Because they're not just going to let the Expo hit your tower and be like, heh, but he still doesn't know that I have the bull in my hand. It's like,
super mind games.
Great.
And I think Erick could do that again. I mean, in this game, really aggressive tower hunting cards like Hog Rider, Miner, Expo. The first one is usually the most effective one because the opponent hasn't prepared for it yet. They're not set up in a way where they're really able to deal with it. So we could see another Expo right off the bat here, just to test if Clyde even has his Golem.
Let's see.
All right. Ice Spirit hops onto the tower. The Princess survives for a little longer, but I think it's not long until we see the log rolling in, taking down that Princess.
Might even hit those sad archers as well.
Mega Minion moves across as the Fireball takes down the Tombstone.
I really wish Clyde would adapt here. I mean, he's falling into the same pattern of playing too many things close together. Oh no, it's a little too far back. That's gonna lock onto the tower. Oh no! Oops, indeed.
Oops, he knows.
Yeah, wow, big mistake in this critical game here. I wish Clyde would do a few things. A, play your golem a little further up. But B, quit playing all the things in that inside lane between your King Tower and Crown Tower. He's eaten so many fireballs over the last few games. Just play the archers in the upper right corner or something like that instead.
Opts to zap the Inferno Tower rather than use lightning, and I think that was one of the big things that was helping Clyde win the previous game, was making sure that he stayed on top of his elixir management, had enough for lightning the Inferno Tower, the crossbow, and the tower. I think the little bit of timing, I might also say for Clyde, just cut your losses, don't play any other cards other than your golem, and just lightning the Expo and the tower, and then let that retarget onto your golem, and then play out from there.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why Clyde is being, like, I get why he's being really cautious with playing the golem. He doesn't want to get blown out by an Expo, but why even be so cautious as to play it that far back, right? That's a pretty good lightning target. It's only 5 elixir, but might be worth it to get all those cards off the board.
There it is. A big lightning takes down the Mega Minion, resets the Inferno Tower, and also lowers the Ice Column health to insignificant amounts.
10 elixir worth of troops with just 8 of 6 elixir lightning. Pretty good exchange overall.
And we see that Erick has to drop guards and then Ice Golem to make sure to mitigate the damage from the skeletons incoming. The Golem Knights are getting a good amount of swings off onto the tower, maybe about 300 damage here.
I would expect Erick to play an Expo perhaps in the middle. Yep, there it is, right? Because he doesn't need to attack any more towers with Expo. It can be a purely defensive structured point. It's going to pull the Golem towards the center of the board. It's going to contribute a little bit of damage, even though it won't be that much. I think Erick pretty much has this game locked in now. I don't know how a Golem deck can beat something with 2 towers like that.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting situation.
I think, I don't know what he can do. I think Clyde might just be kind of playing it out here. There's only 10 more seconds. It's really tough. The thing that's really been hurting him in these games, too, is the Ice Wizard and Archers. When it gets close like that, they get fireballed every time. He's got to figure out a way to separate those cards a little more. Maybe playing Archers at the river in the center so they can just shoot across at the defending troops instead of being right behind where the Ice Wizard is going to be as well.
Erick now one step closer to $2,000. He just needs to win one more game.
We saw Clyde make some mistakes in that. You're at the Clash Royale North American Open.
Brought to you by Supercell.
And you're under so much pressure. How do you just take a second and evaluate the mistakes that you've made and adapt to go into the next round?
Well, I hope they're doing that right now, right? And unlike a lot of events, you get a couple minutes break here where we talk about the last game. He gets a chance to breathe, recollect, go, all right, I just need to win 2 games. I've won many more than that. Erick, on the other hand, taste in blood, because he can't play his Expo deck, but he does have a Giant Bowler deck, and Giant Bowler is going to be pretty fine against either Lava Hound or Golem, so I'm not really sure what Clyde's going to do here. Clyde knows that Erick has to switch to Giant Bowler, so he has his choice of whichever deck he wants to beat it twice.
Sure.
But what are you going to pick? And Giant Bowler can really beat anything. It doesn't have that many bad matchups.
So, Rainey, if you're Erick, right, he took that tower super early on. So now you have, let's see, a minute and a half left. You're like, okay, I just got to defend now. I just have to make sure my towers don't fall at all. When I try to do this in the game, when I'm like, oh, I took a tower early. I just got to go on defense. This is easy. It comes back and bites me. How do you turn your cards and start thinking of them in a more defensive way?
I think that, first off, playing purely defensively is a little bit of a kind of misconception.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a misconception. Oftentimes, a good defense also includes a small amount of offense, right? You have to realize that when you threaten tower damage, your opponent needs to answer that or just accept the new situation of now I'm down X amount of health on my tower, right? So the big thing about playing defensively is sometimes your best choice is to play a card on the other lane aggressively just to make sure that they play options that they would have preferred to use on the weaker tower side. They have to play it defensively on the other side where it becomes irrelevant, or they spend enough elixir and you don't have to worry about a huge push coming down your lane. So purely playing defensively, I think, actually puts you in a slightly bad spot in some situations. You need to realize how to play aggressively in order to gain a defensive advantage.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Potentially the final game here at the Clash Royale North American Open Coronation Day 2. Will Erick take it, or will Clyde back and tie it up?
Those two skeletons are actually doing a good amount of work there behind Clyde's effort. I mean, they're doing some stuff. They killed a whole bunch of skeletons coming out of the tombstone, but that Lava Hound does connect.
Lava Pups do a little bit of damage, about 300 done, but the Mega Minion did a pretty good job cleaning up 3 of the Lava Pups in the back.
Erick is not going to stop, though. The bowler is sort of an interesting card in this matchup because the only thing it's really going to bowl over is, I guess, the archers, and it's very vulnerable to the Mega Minions that are going to come out, and of course potentially the lightning as well. So going to do it here, but it'll be really important for both players to watch how effective this bowler is, and if it's bad, Erick shouldn't be playing it after that, and he's got to figure out another way to win the game.
Yeah, Mega Minion placed in a good spot against the Lava Hound. We'll start working on the health of it. Giant makes its way over to the Tombstone, and we see just how effective Tombstone is to defend against the Giant. The bowler was actually too far behind and couldn't actually support the Giant in that push, and I think that might be the downfall of this connection here for Clyde. Clyde gets a little bit of chip damage from, yeah, misses the timing
Too
there.
late. I think he actually would have done better if that miner was in front of the tower instead of behind. The idea there is he was trying to make the miner pop up in front of the tower before the tower started shooting at the Mega Minion. So even though the Mega Minion had low health, it could have flown up to the tower and started attacking it. He left himself very vulnerable, though, to this giant bowler push that's doing a huge amount of damage.
I am actually interested in why Clyde ceded so much damage on that left side tower. Opts to play the Lava Hound instead.
I think he's just giving up on it and going to use the Mega Minions and lightning and things like that to try to stop it, or unless the tower absorb it, I guess. Like, I think he realized that that was a futile thing to defend against. He was losing that tower no matter what.
Yeah, it's really tough. Playing the Tombstone actually would not have helped that scenario because the bowler was so close to the Giant, as opposed to the other time where the bowler was actually lagging very far behind. That was a big reason why you would play the Giant and bowler close together right there.
Really fringe interaction we just saw there. If Ice Spirit jumps on the Lava Hound just as the Lava Hound dies, all of the pups come out frozen. And those Lava Pups spread all the way out and stayed in a frozen state for about 2 seconds, leaving that push to be pretty ineffective.
Lava Pups continuing to chip away damage onto the tower, but I think with 7 seconds left.
Is that a 3-0 for Erick in the finals?
It's 3-1.
3-1. Clyde got one.
Clyde got the very first game.
But it doesn't matter.
You're right.
Because which win matters the most? The
last win.
That's right. The last win. And it's going to be Erick taking first place, $2,000, and moving on to the crown duels for that $15,000 place. Well, there we have it. Yesterday, it was Expos, just Expos. Today, Expos and now Giant Bowler. We got some Lava Hounds. Just a fantastic matchup.
What did it come down to in that last match? Do you
Why?
think?
Yeah, why? Such a dominate. You said he was saying, "Oh, I just lost my tower. I'm just going to go ahead and take that." And if you lose one defense like that, can it just be over from there?
What does your strategy become? Do you have one?
I think the key thing is that Erick's name starts with E. 100% of Clash Royale North American Open winners have had a name that started with E.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. No, but truthfully, what Clyde was...
Does that mean I can be one too?
That's it. That's right. You're on the way. No, I think what Clyde should have done there, and it didn't really work out, I don't think it would have really mattered in that game, was to go down the tower, the lane that was already kind of weakened, because when he went down that left side, when he already had full health, I think he might have known it was wiped out at that point. These expert defenses from these best players make it really hard when you fall down a tower to come back. It's a lot like chess in that regard. I mean, chess masters...
Like once you're down.
Yeah, you lose a rook, you're done, right? And that's what happens. You get these towers, one of these towers go down. Very, very tough to recover.
The Expo was such a key component to Erick's victory, and I think that just Clyde's folly in playing the Golem just not in the exact spot that he needed to hurt him way too much in this series.
I don't want to take anything away from Erick, because Erick absolutely won this series with stellar play, but I think there was a lot of games that Clyde gave away. I mean, I could think of at least 2 of the games that Erick won where Clyde made fatal mistakes that if he had done it differently, who knows how the game would turn out. Maybe he would have lost anyways, but he definitely lost it when the Expo locks onto the tower.
Yeah, I mean, just look at how much damage. The thing is, too, the Golem is so slow. Slower than anything you would ever imagine. I mean, the Giant looks like Sonic compared to
And it doesn't do that much damage against the towers. Even if it does get up to the Expo, it's kind of just like nudging it with its nose and not being really threatening. This giant bowler here was, I mean, unreal. If you look at the elixir, even as that 10 elixir push is mashing on the tower, Clyde still didn't have 10 elixir.
Yes.
He was so far behind at that point.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, before we go ahead and crown our champion, Rainey, Rumham, let's go ahead and pull up the brackets of today just to look at the story. Totally different from yesterday.
It's so different.
Because yesterday, again, tons of expos, all expos. Today, we got some expos, we got some bowlers, we got some lava hounds. So
I think what we saw was a lot of cards that were really good against Expo. I mean, the Golem was out there, the Giants were in force. It's good job for Eric for still recognizing that Expo is a very powerful deck and winning with it as one of his 2 decks, but the field was far more diverse because people were not willing to go down to Expo that easy.
Walk us through this story of tonight.
Let's follow. I mean, really, Eric to me is a standout performer in today's Clash Royale North American Open. Lozano had the Hog Rider matchup, and Eric absolutely demolished it. And I think that is just picking the right decks, playing the game in what he understands to be the most effective manner. Crossbow and Giant Bull are definitely great choices, and Lozano felt the full force of that. Trainer Rubens had a very unique deck coming into this, but in double deck format, I think you really need to back up your deck choice if it's going to be really, really unique in that manner. Similar to how Trainer Rubens defeated Darth Jar Jar, Trainer Rubens then gets a piece of his own kind of sandwich.
piece of his own sandwich.
A piece of his own sandwich.
I love that.
I mean,
Great.
Shout out though to Eric and Goose, the only people to actually 2-0 sweep any of the matches. And of course, shout out to Clan Takeover for having 2 members.
And a 3 crown tonight.
And a 3 crown, you're right. Goose, come back.
Yeah.
I like to say your name.
That's right. That's right.
So not only is Eric taking home $2,000 and a trip to the Crown Jewels, but his name will go down in Clash history. So if you want to be like Eric, go to ClashRoyaleOpen.com and make sure you sign up for our next Opens and Coronation. You could get into the Coronation
That's
Day,
right.
which is what is happening right now.
Yeah, you guys could be here. Our next Coronation Day is going to be Wednesday, the 26th. You guys make sure you come back and watch some amazing duels. And if you want to be a part of them, be a part of them. We have 14 more of these to do before we then go on to the arena battles. And so if you guys want a chance at $2,000 and then moving on for $15,000, go to Supercell HQ. Go ahead and sign up when you guys can be a part of that. But enough of that, guys. It is now time for our second coronation. It's time to crown our champion. Today, it was Eric. Eric showing that the Expo is still powerful, but that you don't just need an Expo. Eric showing that a bowler can be just as effective in those situations. Eric showing that he should be the clan leader right now. Eric, this one's for you. Ella, would you do the honors?
Here we go, Eric.
There you go. Congratulations, Eric. You are the man, our second champion here tonight. Well, that will do it for us. On behalf of everyone here at the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Opens, broadcast out of NGE Studios in Burbank, that was Rainey and Rumham.
I'm Ella.
I'm Christian.
Have a most ridiculous night.